Dead Souls, Part 2, Chapter 3, Section 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dead Souls by Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol, translated by D.J. Hogarth. Part 2, Chapter 3, Section 2, read by Anna Simon. Half an hour's drive sufficed to bring him to the Colonel's establishment. The village attached to the manor was in a state of utter confusion, since in every direction building and repairing operations were in progress, and the alleys were choked with heaps of lime, bricks, and beams of wood. Also some of the huts were arranged to resemble offices, and superscribed in gilt letters: Depot for Agricultural Implements, Chief Office of Accounts, Estate Works Committee, Normal School for the Education of Colonists, and so forth. Chichikov found the Colonel posted behind a desk and holding a pen between his teeth. Without an instant's delay, the master of the establishment, who seemed a kindly, approachable man, and accorded to his visitor a very civil welcome, plunged into a recital of the labour which it had cost him to bring the property to its present condition of affluence. Then he went on to lament the fact that he could not make his peasantry understand the incentives to labour which the riches of science and art provide. For instance, he had failed to induce his female serfs to wear corsets, whereas in Germany, where he had resided for 14 years, every humble miller's daughter could play the piano. None the less, he said, he meant to peg away until every peasant on the estate should, as he walked behind the plough, indulge in a regular course of reading Franklin's Notes on Electricity, Virgil's Georgics, or some work on the chemical properties of soil. "Good gracious!" mentally exclaimed Chichikov. "Why, I myself have not had time to finish that book by the Duchess de la Vallière." Much else the Colonel said. In particular did he aver that, provided the Russian peasant could be induced to array himself in German costume, science would progress, trade increase, and the golden age dawn in Russia. For a while Chichikov listened with distended eyes. Then he felt constrained to intimate that with all that he had nothing to do, seeing that his business was merely to acquire a few souls, and thereafter to have their purchase confirmed. "If I understand you aright," said the Colonel, "you wish to present a statement of plea?" "Yes, that is so." "Then kindly put it into writing, and it shall be forwarded to the office for the reception of reports and returns. Thereafter that office will consider it, and return it to me, who will, in turn, dispatch it to the Estate Works Committee, who will, in turn, revise it, and present it to the administrator, who, jointly with the secretary, will—" "Pardon me," expostulated Chichikov, "but that procedure will take up a great deal of time. Why need I put the matter into writing at all? It is simply this. I want a few souls which are—well, which are, so to speak, dead." "Very good," commented the Colonel. "Do you write down in your statement of plea that the souls which you desire are, so to speak, dead?" "But what would be the use of my doing so? Though the souls are dead, my purpose requires that they should be represented as alive." "Very good," again commented the Colonel. "Do you write down in your statement that it is necessary, or, should you prefer an alternative phrase, it is requested, or it is desiderated, or it is prayed, that the souls be represented as alive? At all events, without documentary process of that kind, the matter cannot possibly be carried through. Also, I will appoint a commissioner to guide you round the various offices." And he sounded a bell, whereupon there presented himself a man whom, addressing as secretary, the Colonel instructed to summon the commissioner. The latter, on appearing, was seen to have the air, half of a peasant, half of an official. "This man," the Colonel said to Chichikov, "will act as your escort." What could be done with a lunatic like Koshkarev? In the end, curiosity moved Chichikov to accompany the commissioner. The committee for the reception of reports and returns was discovered to have put up its shutters, and to have locked its doors, for the reason that the director of the committee had been transferred to the newly formed Committee of Estate Management, and his successor had been annexed by the same committee. Next, Chichikov and his escort rapped at the doors of the Department of Estate Affairs, but that department's quarters happened to be in a state of repair, and no one could be made to answer the summons save a drunken peasant from whom not a word of sense was to be extracted. At length the escort felt himself moved to remark: "There is a deal of foolishness going on here. Fellows like that drunkard lead the Baron by the nose, and everything is ruled by the Committee of Management, which takes men from their proper work and sets them to do any other it likes. Indeed, only through the committee does anything get done." By this time Chichikov felt that he had seen enough, wherefore he returned to the colonel and informed him that the office for the reception of reports and returns had ceased to exist. At once the colonel flamed to noble rage. Pressing Chichikov's hand in token of gratitude for the information which the guest had furnished, he took paper and pen and noted 8 searching questions under 3 separate headings. 1. Why has the Committee of Management presumed to issue orders to officials not under its jurisdiction? 2. Why has the Chief Manager permitted his predecessor, though still in retention of his post, to follow him to another department? And 3. Why has the Committee of Estate Affairs suffered the office for the reception of reports and returns to lapse? Now for a row, thought Chichikov to himself, and turned to depart, but his host stopped him, saying: "I cannot let you go, for, in addition to my honour having become involved, it behoves me to show my people how the regular, the organised, administration of an estate may be conducted. Herewith I will hand over the conduct of your affair to a man who is worth all the rest of the staff put together, and has had a university education. Also, the better to lose no time, may I humbly beg you to step into my library, where you will find notebooks, paper, pens, and everything else that you may require. Of these articles pray make full use, for you are a gentleman of letters, and it is your and my joint duty to bring enlightenment to all." So saying, he ushered his guest into a large room lined from floor to ceiling with books and stuffed specimens. The books in question were divided into sections: a section on forestry, a section on cattle breeding, a section on the raising of swine, and a section on horticulture, together with special journals of the type circulated merely for the purpose of reference and not for general reading. Perceiving that these works were scarcely of a kind calculated to while away an idle hour, Chichikov turned to a second bookcase. But to do so was to fall out of the frying pan into the fire, for the contents of the second bookcase proved to be works on philosophy, while, in particular, 6 huge volumes confronted him under a label inscribed: "A preparatory course to the province of thought, with the theory of community of effort, cooperation, and subsistence, in its application to a right understanding of the organic principles of a mutual division of social productivity." Indeed, wheresoever Chichikov looked, every page presented to his vision some such words as phenomenon, development, abstract, contents, and synopsis. "This is not the sort of thing for me," he murmured, and turned his attention to a third bookcase, which contained books on the arts. Extracting a huge tome in which some by no means reticent mythological illustrations were contained, he set himself to examine these pictures. They were of the kind which pleases mostly middle-aged bachelors and old men, who are accustomed to seek in the ballet and similar frivolities a further spur to their waning passions. Having concluded his examination, Chichikov had just extracted another volume of the same species when Colonel Koshkarev returned with a document of some sort and a radiant countenance. "Everything has been carried through in due form," he cried. "The man whom I mentioned is a genius indeed, and I intend not only to promote him over the rest, but also to create for him a special department. Herewith shall you hear what a splendid intellect is his, and how in a few minutes he has put the whole affair in order." "May the Lord be thanked for that," thought Chichikov. Then he settled himself, while the colonel read aloud: "After giving full consideration to the reference which your Excellency has entrusted to me, I have the honour to report as follows: 1. In the statement of plea presented by one Paul Ivanovitch Chichikov, gentleman, chevalier, and collegiate councillor, there lurks an error in that an oversight has led the petitioner to apply to revisional souls the term 'dead.' Now, from the context it would appear that by this term the petitioner desires to signify souls approaching death, rather than souls actually deceased. Wherefore the term employed betrays such an empirical instruction in letters as must, beyond doubt, have been confined to the village school, seeing that in truth the soul